Today we'll be talking about World War One. As all of you present here know, it's an essential topic in our social studies unit 7, which is all about history, which is all about history. As is common, while we are studying history, we can't just ignore the history of the rest of the world. Hence, Unit 7 also deals international history, and two of the major events of international history were World War One and World War Two. As all of you may have known about World War Two, since it's the more overshadowed one out of the two. However, World War One hasn't been explored in that much detail since our social teacher Mona ma'am herself hasn't covered it that well, and in that I'll try my best to teach you all what was World War One and how did it start and how did it lead in turn to World War Two. Yeah, so let's start. So any of you got an idea what World War One was about? Yeah, so basically World War One ranged from 1914 to 1918, and it is known as the first World War, first out of the two, because it covered a variety of locations, including Europe, Africa, Asia, and all of them were major playgrounds for various nations at the time. Hence, it was known as the Great War, because unlike ever in history, no one had seen such devastation for a war. So basically, the causes of World War One were many, but mostly it stemmed from the actions of a single man, a German man, a German man by the name of Otto von Bismarck, who was the Chancellor of Prussia or the entire Germany at the time. At the time, I think I'll screen share right now. So yeah, so yeah, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
so yeah, this was the map of Europe in 1871. 1871. Before 1871, there was no unified Germany. Germany, like Nepal, was divided into many states. And just like how Gorkha unified Nepal, a kingdom called Prussia unified Germany. Before 1871, Otto von Bismarck was the Chancellor of Prussia, a North German state which was around here. So basically, he had this dream of unifying Germany. However, he knew that all the European powers would fear a unified Germany. Hence, he knew that he had to go to war with some of them. He convinced the Prussian king to become the German emperor, and in doing so, led Germany to war against France. France, France lost the war of 1871 and was very much humiliated since the Germans took their land, and plus the German emperor was coronated in Paris. Because of that, many alliances were formed. Germany allied with Russia and Italy. It formed a secret pact with Russia and Italy, and eventually it also formed a pact with Austria-Hungary. Austria-Hungary. France similarly allied with England or Great Britain, as Great Britain was very concerned with the unification of Germany and believed that a unified Germany would pose a great threat to its naval supremacy. And hence that's how the building blocks for World War One started. World War One started, and basically the entire event which kick-started, aka lit the barrel on fire, was the assassination of the Austrian nobleman Ferdinand in Serbia. As you can see, Serbia at this time was under the as you can see, Serbia at this time was very tiny. It was because the majority of the Balkan areas was occupied by the Ottoman Empire, which was a Turkish empire, which was also allied to the German Empire. because it feared the colonial expansion of United Kingdom, because it feared the colonialism of United Kingdom. So basically, while in Serbia, the Austrian nobleman and the heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary, Franz Ferdinand, was assassinated by Serbian nationalist Gavrilo Princip. As you can see, this person right here, he was Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary. Austria-Hungary was a powerful empire located in present-day Austria, Hungary, and many other Central European countries. Despite its size, however, the Austro-Hungarian Empire was slowly crumbling from inside. Hence it allied itself with the German Empire to stay relevant. And this person right here, he was the heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary. However, however, in an unlucky trip to Serbia, he was assassinated by a Serbian nationalist, and that caused Austria-Hungary to send an ultimatum to Serbia regarding sending Gavrilo Princip over for due trial, and also to end the Serbian alternationalist organization Black Hand, which had which had played a role in killing Franz Ferdinand. However, Serbia refused to comply with that and was promptly invaded by Austria-Hungary, of course. However, However, the United Kingdom and France feared that feared that an invasion of Serbia would disrupt the power vacuum in Europe and would cause the balance to shift in favor of the German alliance. Hence, it provided military support to Serbia, and that caused all chaos to be let loose. Yeah, so basically, here's an alliance map of Europe at the time of World War One. Can you guys see my screen again? Can I get a yes
Yes,
or no?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. So Europe at the time was divided between two two blocks, I suppose. One way the Allied powers, while the another one was Central Powers, nicknamed Triple Entente. Yeah, so basically, while Italy was originally a member of the German alliance, it soon left because it wanted piece of land from the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It wanted piece of land from the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and also because they feared that the alliance led by Great Britain would topple the German alliance. Bulgaria joined the Central Powers to expand its land and to also take over Romania and other Balkan countries, yeah. And the remaining countries were totally neutral, including Spain, Netherlands, Switzerland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and initially Belgium. However, the neutrality of Belgium did not prevent it from getting invaded by the German Empire, for it was called on to the war by Austro-Hungarian Empire as a mutual ally. As a mutual ally, hence World War One started on 1914, on July 1914, and it would span over entire continents, entire countries, and in the end, the Allied powers won, but at a huge cost. Germany was totally humiliated. Austro-Hungarian Empire ceased to exist. Ottoman Empire ceased to exist. The empires as a whole ceased to exist and were replaced by republics and democracy. So that's it. So that's it. Hence, ultimately, the cause of World War One can be defined as imperialism, or the imperialistic ambitions of Germany to expand its borders and to subjugate its neighbors and to subjugate its neighbors. Also, it could unify itself. Another second cause Another second cause would be due to the concerns of United Kingdom. The UK, not being exactly situated within the European peninsula, as it is an isle, feared that and German-led alliance would disrupt the power vacuum in Europe and would also lead to Great Britain losing its naval superiority. And the third cause would be and the third cause would be the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. While many people like to point out that the assassination was the ultimate cause, that was not the case, as the wheels had already been set in motion for the cause of World War One before his assassination. And in all, his assassination was simply another factor, not small though, another factor which caused World War One. Yeah. So any questions? No
No, sir.
questions.
Yes, you understood.
That's good. I've done my best to explain this. So I'm gonna screen share again. This is actually a rough
Colorize.
representation of the assassination of the Archduke. As you can see, this man right here is Gavrilo Princip, a member of the Serbian ultranationalist group, which sought to liberate the Balkans from the foreign Austrians. And this person right here is the Archduke himself. This is his wife, and this is the unlucky driver. Yes, and this triggered one of the most devastating wars in all of humanity, only rivaled by World War II and the 30 Years' War. Yeah, so that's the cause done for now. Cause done for now. So we'll be moving on. Yeah, I guess now we'll go through the background of the war, what actually happened in the war. Oh, as is evident by the name, the World War One spanned over continents, over countries, etc. Men from Africa fought men from Asia in the battlegrounds of Europe, and that's what made World War One different from any other war in history before it. Before it, during the war, war, even neutral countries were spared. For Germany invaded Belgium to get to Paris, to get to Paris, and that caused many countries to see the alliance led by UK more favorably, as they feared that they could get invaded anytime by the German alliance. Hence, this was the reason exactly why Russia was originally allied to Germany. However, it soon dropped out because it feared the imperialistic ambitions of Germany itself. So yeah, Russia originally was in the bloc with Germany. However, it defected to the UK-led Allied powers because it feared the imperialistic ambitions of Germany. During 1871, as I've stated before, the European powers held a conference to oversee who got to colonize what in Africa. And during the negotiations which took place in Berlin, Germany managed to get quite a lot of colonies, which UK and Russia too feared it. For Germany managed to make a colony out of Hawaii, and Russia feared that Germans could have their eyes on the Siberian front or the St. Petersburg front. Hence, that caused Russia to later defect to the UK-led alliance. So, so what a lot of people get wrong regarding World War One is that they believe that the United States originally was in the Allied powers. However, that's false. For the United States at the time was isolationist and it had no interest in European affairs. However, it was only forced to join because the majority of its population was ethnically German American, and German Americans initially pushed the United States to join in on the war in the side of Germany. However, that backfired when Germany later invaded Belgium and violated its neutrality. The United the United Kingdom also dealt with the United States of America, causing United States economy to skyrocket due to the increased demands of weapons and merchandise. Hence, later on, as the tide of war slowly began turning against Germany, United States, seeking to capitalize on that, joined the war on the side of United Kingdom, on the side of United Kingdom, and that too, the contribution of United States wasn't much. It barely sent 100,000 troops to the European frontier, and that's all. The majority of the contributions in the war from each sides would be United Kingdom and Russians from the Allied powers, and Germans, and surprisingly, the Turks themselves on behalf of the Central Powers. During uh, uh, during during the climax of World War One, Russia was plagued by its own revolutions, and a revolution would occur in Russia, which would transform it into the Soviet Union, headed by the People's Party, the People's Marxist-Leninist Party, and that on and the revolution would cause Russia to drop out of the war entirely. Similarly, revolutions like that would pop up all over Europe, communist revolutions all over Europe, in Germany too, and that caused and that caused Ger- and that caused German and that caused the Germans to have higher instability, which led to their ultimate defeat. The military incompetence of the Austrian Hungarians also contributed to the defeat of the German bloc. The the Austro-Hungarians severely underestimated their opponents, and as such faced numerous defeats in the Russian frontier and in the Italian frontier, for they thought Russians and Italians to be more inferior than them. And that's everything you've got in the European front. Similarly, there was the Asian front, in which Japan and the British colony of British Raj in India played a major role in. Japan became a member of the Allied powers, for it was modernizing rapidly, and it thought that by joining the Allied powers, Japan would Japan's authority would be recognized with respect by the world. However, it failed to gain any recognition after the war, which led to Japan later on joining ranks with Nazi Germany and Italy in World War II. However, that is an entirely different topic. Entirely different topic. The British Raj in India drafted many Indian men to go fight in the European frontier against Germany. The British government at the time too made a deal with the Rana rulers of our own country for the drafting of Gorkhali men into the war and after World War One, many of these Gorkhali soldiers, seeing what life was like in Europe and how the European societies functioned, brought many of the ideals back to Nepal, which in turn fueled the fire for later rise of democracy in Nepal. However, that is an entirely different topic on its own. There was the African front as well. Like I mentioned, many European countries at the time had colonies in Africa, where they drafted the native. natives of Africa to fight their wars. The Germans held their colony in West Africa. Similarly, the United Kingdom held Egypt, South Africa, and many other key colonies. France held most of North Africa under its tight hold, and hence the African frontier was no less dangerous than Western frontier or Asian frontier. However, South America and North America was rarely touched by such infighting. For the only superpowers in North, for the only developed powers at the time, properly developed powers in that time were Canada and the United States, both of whom were young back then and not as developed as they are now. Hence, North America and South America did not play much of a large role in World War One. So yeah, now with the background being done, I'll go over the aftermaths and the consequences of World War One. What actually happened when the war ended? So, as the German-led alliance was defeated, its members faced harsh consequences. Particularly Germany. Germany was forced to sign the Treaty of Versailles, which was a humiliating treaty imposed on them by most notably by the French. Most notably by the French. The other members of the Allied powers strongly opposed the Treaty of Versailles, including United Kingdom and United States, for they felt the treaty was too harsh on Germany. However, later on, the United Kingdom agreed to the treaty. The French, feeling humiliated by their earlier defeats in 1871 and of the confiscation of Alsace-Lorraine, felt increasingly humiliated and sought and as such imposed harsh treaties on Germany. They took back Alsace-Lorraine, forced the German Empire to renounce its monarchy and to become a republic, the Weimar Republic of Germany, to become the Weimar Republic of Germany. It also forced Germany to pay uh, large sum of money, large sum of Reichmark to all of the members of the Allied powers annually to compensate for the damages done. Similarly, similarly, Germany could not build up its military anymore, for the Allied powers were afraid that if Germany was to build its military again, it would wreak havoc on Europe, and we all can see how that turned out. Anyone's laughing? Sad,
Hmm?
many such cases. Yeah, I'll go on. I'll cut this part out. Yeah, so basically, Germany suffered the most harsh consequences out of any Central Powers country out there. Austria-Hungary was disbanded, and many of its Balkan territories formed into independent countries of their own, like Croatia, Slovenia, Slovakia, etc. Some territories were returned back to Serbia. Hungary became its own independent body after more than 300 years of control under the Austrian governance. Hungary was stripped of its land too, and many of these were given to Poland, Romania, and other Balkan entities. Similarly, Austria lost nearly half of its domain and was confined to the Alps mountains. Many of its rich lands full of resources, were stripped from it and given to other nations like Poland, Poland and Czechoslovakia, sorry, my bad, and Italy. The Ottoman Empire was disbanded, and initially the Allied powers wanted to strip Turkey of its land too. However, the Turks had another war, the Turkish wars, which is an entirely different topic, that prevented the Allied powers from seizing more Turkish land. However, the Turks were forced to give up their caliphate, caliphate and the monarchy. They became a republic under Ataturk. Under Ataturk, all of their foreign dominions, like in North Africa and Arabia, became independent countries of their own, or were transferred to United Kingdom and France. United Kingdom and France later held the Agreement, Sykes-Picot Agreement to divide the land in Middle East, to divide the borders in the Middle East, and that turned out to be terrible, as we can see right now in modern geopolitics. Other than that, Bulgaria didn't suffer much repercussions, as in the later phase of war they defected to the allies. Hence they did not receive many harsh consequences. Russia, despite being of the allied powers, seemingly lost in World War One. For the Russian monarchy was toppled, the country went through a civil war, and that led to the regime of Lenin and later Stalin, which was disastrous for the Russian people, Russian and other people inhabiting the now USSR, or the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. The United Kingdom benefited the most, for its naval supremacy remained unchallenged within the European peninsula. France, although although half of the country nearly was capitulated by the Germans, seemingly won, for it managed to recover its old territories of Alsace and Lorraine, and similarly it managed to secure compensation from the Weimar Republic. However, historians and many people usually agree, the real winner of World War One was the United States. For for it was due to World War One that its economy skyrocketed. It was Before World War One, United States wasn't regarded as highly in Europe. It was merely thought of as a democratic experiment gone wrong. However, after World War One, it was started to look more. Its United States started to look more of a superpower after World War One, and it was seen more seriously. The president of United States at the time, Woodrow Wilson, actually formed the precursor to the United Nations, League of Nations. However, however, the United States Senate at the time forbid the United States from joining the League of Nations, because the United States at the time was isolationist. It held no interest of international geopolitics. It just wanted to be left alone. This new League of Nations wanted to ensure that there would be no such devastating wars again, and included members like United Kingdom, France, and other European countries. However, the League of Nations eventually failed, and that led to World War II, which is an entirely different topic on its own. Regarding the consequences of World War One in Nepal, many of those Gorkhali soldiers, which were recruited by the British government, eventually returned home, bringing back with them ideals from Europe, ideals like democracy, the the uh, ideas like democracy, freedom, freedom and franchise rights. However, similarly, they brought back many bad things too. Nepal at the time was isolationist, just like the United States. Its people were self-functioning, meaning that they were independent of their own. However, after the end of World War One, Nepal began to rely more on exports from British India, and that caused the Nepalese economy to go down, and hence caused widespread poverty among the rural areas, and caused massive migrations to places like Kathmandu. Hence, speaking from a national viewpoint, World War One was both beneficial and disastrous for Nepal. Uh, After World War One, the events that transpired after the World War One slowly led to the rise of a certain National Socialist regime in Germany, and slowly led to the rise of an enigmatic, albeit cruel man in history who went by the name Adolf Hitler. So yeah, that's a tale for another time.